Hi, I'm E Fraser, and I'd like to thank the Academy. That's the wrong speech. I'd actually like to begin by acknowledging my co-authors with the UC Global Health Institute Center of Expertise on Women's Health and Empowerment. Today I'm presenting some preliminary findings from a larger literature review which we've conducted on the relationship between women's empowerment and family planning. So I want to breeze you through the methods. I'll just note here that empowerment variables in the studies that we included had to have the empowerment variable conceptualized explicitly by the authors as indicators of empowerment or autonomy or women's status or related constructs. And I'll also highlight that we used the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force approach for rating and grading the strength and quality of the evidence. After our exclusion process, we ended up with 50 articles for our review. As you can see, the included studies examined a number of family planning related outcomes, and current use was the most commonly studied outcome, so I'll limit the rest of today's presentation to the 31 studies which examined current contraceptive use. Most of the studies included in our review came from Asia, the majority of those from South Asia, and 80% were cross-sectional, leaving a real dearth of more rigorously designed studies. So of the 31 studies we included, which examined current use outcomes, they included a variety of empowerment exposures, and I've just included a sort of a selected few here to give you an idea of the distribution of exposure variables that were analyzed. And if we look at the associations that were found, I think that what is really interesting is that when household decision-making, the studies in the most commonly examined empowerment exposures included household decision-making and mobility. Household decision-making was studied in more regions, and mobility was studied primarily in Asia. Of the 31 studies that examined household decision-making, 9 found positive associations, but the rest were null. And whereas for mobility, 24 studies examined mobility associations, and half of those were significant and the other half were non-significant. If we look at other empowerment variables that were used, we see that when empowerment was conceptualized as a composite and included multiple domains in a single score, that was more consistently associated with current contraceptive use. And we see with other indicators of empowerment, such as spousal communication and family planning decision-making, those were also more consistently associated with current contraceptive use, but those indicators are actually extremely proximate to the current use outcome, and were in fact treated by many authors as family planning related outcomes themselves, including by us. So, and then we see that for education, some of the popular proxies had the associations depended on which proxy was selected. So for education, it was when it was conceptualized as an empowerment indicator, it was often positively associated with current use, but occupation was more often non-significant, and a related outcome to occupation, financial autonomy, was associated with current contraceptive use about half the time. And many studies actually questioned the use of these popular proxies, and a few of the included studies actually discredited their use, but these are the ones that continue to use them as proxies. So what we get from this little snapshot is that it seems like a lot of researchers are sort of taking a bunch of variables and sort of throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. And depending on your perspective, not a lot of things are sticking, or the glass is half full, and there are a lot of methodological issues to address, including the measurement and conceptualization of empowerment, the regional context, given that most of the studies were from Asia, and study design, where we could use more rigorously designed studies to give us a little more insight into the gender dynamics. So I'll stop there. Thank you.